12 Ricks have already opened accounts here.
That's a lot of Ricks.
Yeah.
One of the best parts of a blockbuster movie or a hit TV series is the behind-the-scenes bloopers that have fans laughing until they cry. But what about the bloopers that actually make it into the final cut? Welcome back, The Things fans. Have you ever thought you caught a glimpse of an actor laughing in a super serious scene? Or caught a moment on screen that looked a little too real to be acting? Actors' jobs are to bring characters to life and make them seem like real people. Well, the truth is that a lot of the time, actors do this by being real, or themselves. In this video, we'll be taking you through some of the most shocking, unscripted on-screen moments with actors like Millie Bobby Brown, Tom Holland, and Hollywood legend Robin Williams himself. Buckle up, this could get real. The Stranger Things cast may be at the beginning of their careers, but they give their all into every performance. In this Season 3 scene, when Eleven is fighting a possessed Billy, she's so tired that she falls back into Michael. But we discovered that Millie Bobby Brown actually broke character in this scene and is the one who fell back into Finn. This scene was so intense that even she was exhausted. If you look closely, you can see Finn glancing at the directors in concern because he totally wasn't expecting it. A creepy killer clown is bad enough through a screen. Imagine seeing one in real life. That's exactly what happened to the cast of the horror movie It. The child actors that made up the Losers Club were kept separate from Bill Skarsgård when he was in his full Pennywise makeup and costume.
I think we all also decided mutually that it would be good to see him for the first time and just be freaked out.
The first time they saw him all together was when they were filming the infamous projector scene. The fear on their faces is completely real. It wasn't friends at first sight for this superhero duo. In fact, it took quite a while for Tony Stark to warm up to Peter Parker. That's why this car scene between the two was nothing but awkward, and it's all thanks to Tom Holland breaking character.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not there yet.
The hug between them was actually Tom Holland trying to be funny, and Robert Downey Jr.'s line afterward about opening the car door is him trying to save the scene. Improv just works for these two. In Avengers: Infinity War, Tom Holland also improvised his death scene with Robert Downey Jr.
I don't want to go, sir, please.
His line was completely unscripted and made not only the characters but the actors' emotions more real. The filming for this scene took a dangerous turn. There's a reason why Isla Fisher's character Henley looks like she's really drowning during one of her illusion tricks. Isla did all of her stunts for this movie, so during the filming, she was actually drowning. Luckily, nothing went terribly wrong, and we got the awesome scene that ended up in the final cut. Would you ever take on a role in a horror series? Even if we told you that some directors purposely scare actors on camera to get a genuine reaction? This exact thing happened during a scene for the hit Netflix show The Haunting of Hill House. Actress Victoria Pedretti as Nell pops her head out from the backseat of a car in order to scare her two sisters, but during one take, she did it earlier than expected. The reactions from the actresses Kate Siegel and Elizabeth Reeser are completely real. Do you remember Kevin's electric performance of Tear Me Down in Riverdale's Season 4 musical episode? Well, Kevin's actor Casey Cott and KJ Apa teamed up to shock the other actors. In one scene, Kevin kisses Archie. It was totally unscripted and makes the look of shock on everyone else's faces even more priceless. KJ Apa was putting so much effort into this scene that he actually broke his hand. During the emotional Season 1 episode where Archie rescues Cheryl from the lake where she's trapped under ice, he punches away with it with his bare hands. While KJ was of course punching a mat over the ice, he still managed to break his hand while filming the scene. Bird Box broke records at Netflix, and with how much work went into the film, we're not surprised. One shocking fact about the film is that Sandra Bullock really was blindfolded during her scenes and actually couldn't see. That means Mallory stumbling around on the scene wasn't all acting. It was very real. The Joker film was nothing short of spectacular, and a lot of it is thanks to Joaquin Phoenix. There's actually an iconic scene included in the movie that was all thanks to Joaquin's emotions and not acting at all. One day on set, he got to hear the soundtrack to the film for the first time. His lone tear in this scene is actually his reaction to hearing the music. Lara Jean and Peter Kay's love story is probably one we've all dreamt of once in our lives. But how much of it was Lara and Peter, and how much of it was their actors, Lana and Noah, having fun? If you pay attention to the film, Lara Jean's lock screen is actually her and Peter napping. But according to the director, the photo on her phone was actually taken of Lana and Noah napping together in between takes. any kid would be scared of Maleficent. We're even scared of Maleficent. That's why for the film, the only child who would work as toddler Aurora was Angelina Jolie's daughter Vivian. The acting in their adorable scenes together is really just Vivian trying to get her mother's attention. Malfoy and Crabbe had a reputation to uphold at Hogwarts, so when we see Malfoy stop his friend from clapping after a Gryffindor victory, we think nothing of it. But the scene is actually Tom Felton stopping his co-star from clapping because he knew he wasn't supposed to. Tom was really trying to keep cool, calm, and collected here. Grey's Anatomy has been around for years, so the actors have gotten pretty good at their jobs. But, of course, they still break character every now and again. In this scene, Jessica Capshaw decided to improv a kiss between her and Camilla Luddington. The shock on Joe's face is 100% Camilla. Michael Scott's last episode of The Office was extremely emotional for the characters, but it was also hard for the actors to say goodbye to Steve Carell. That's why, in the scene where Pam rushes to the airport to say goodbye to Michael, the emotional performance by Jenna Fisher wasn't a performance at all. If you ever watch Supernatural, you know that Dean's famous catchphrase is, well, there was one time when Jensen Ackles decided to add the line in when it wasn't scripted, but he said it with a little too much enthusiasm. Jared Padalecki was not expecting it and burst out laughing. The director loved it and decided to keep the take.
Son of a...
Jason Segel had no idea that his character Marshall would be losing his father in the series. In fact, the first time he found out was when Allison Hannigan's character told him. The emotion on his face is actually his reaction to finding out the news. David Schwimmer managed to pull off a practical joke on Jennifer Aniston while filming Friends, and it was used in an episode. He, along with his sidekick, Cole Sprouse, pretended like he had fallen down the stairs, but it was really only a dummy that fell. Jennifer had no idea it was going to happen, so Rachel's panic and screams in the scene were really Jennifer freaking out. Robin Williams was of course a comedic genius. In Good Will Hunting, during a therapy scene with Matt Damon, he tells him a hilarious story about the flatulence problem his character's wife had. The story was so funny because it was completely made up by Robin. Matt Damon's smiles and laughs are all real. Pretty Woman is a Hollywood classic, and millennials today still strive to have the aesthetic Julia Roberts brought to that screen. We're here to tell you that one of the most iconic scenes was, in fact, completely unscripted. When Julia Roberts gets her hand caught in the jewelry box that Richard Gere closes, her reaction wasn't acting. She had no idea that he was going to do that at all. What can we say? The best moments in life, on and off screen, are unscripted. Let's just take a second to imagine what these movies and series would look like without some of these scenes.
Sometimes unscripted moments breathe more life into a scene.
The adults are talking.
And other times, they
I'm so sorry, dude.
fall short. Luckily in the MCU, the improvisation gene is impeccably strong amongst its actors. So in this video, we're taking you through all of Spider-Man's unscripted moments that completely took the films to another level. Action. We all know Tony Stark isn't one to get himself caught up in emotional moments, and in Spider-Man: Homecoming, Peter Parker learned that in a pretty awkward way. After Tony Stark has a talk with Peter in his car, he reaches over to open the car door, but Peter thinks he's actually leaning in for a hug. Remember?
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you.
Well, check out what Tom Holland had to say about the scene.
Well, that was actually an improvised moment. I think I just tried to hug him. I just thought it would be funny if I hugged him and...
The hilarious moment was completely improvised for laughs, but Robert Downey Jr. went along with it. Speaking about Tony Stark and his emotions, during the final moments of Avengers: Infinity War, he was nothing but emotional. Same Mr. Stark. As Spider-Man turned into nothingness in his arms, we were all a puddle of tears when he desperately chants,
I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go.
That was all Tom Holland again. The director gave him free rein on the death scene, and Tom delivered. Even if he doesn't think it was that spectacular himself.
I don't want to go 3 times in a row, so it's not that amazing of an ad-lib.
It's hard to believe Spider-Man is one of Tom's first big roles. Tom Holland and Zendaya's chemistry is off the charts. Peter Parker and MJ are like magic on screen together, and a lot of that is thanks to the actors' off-screen friendship. According to Zendaya, Tom has a habit of deviating from the script, but thankfully, they're so in tune with one another that she was able to respond right back, no matter how annoyed she was.
He just kept improving. He just did not stick to the script. He was trying to throw me off.
What's your favorite Peter and MJ scene?
She knows. I told her.
He didn't tell me. I figured it out.
If there's one thing better than watching Peter and MJ on screen, it's watching Peter, MJ, and Ned interact with one another. But the truth is, a lot of the time we're watching their off-screen relationships shine through the camera. Remember in Spider-Man Far From Home, Ned walks in on MJ and Peter while he's changing into his Spider-Man suit?
The costume looks great. For the costume party.
Well, Ned wasn't in on the fact that MJ had found out their secret and tried to play it off. Ned's actor, Jacob Batalon, actually said that was one of his favorite scenes to shoot because he got to improv all his comments. There was a lot of laughter on set that day. We have to give Jake Gyllenhaal credit for playing such a convincing role as Mysterio. Who knew that he would actually turn out as a villain in the end? But it looks like we should be praising Jake for more than just his impeccable acting skills. According to the actor, he and director John Watts came up with a lot of unscripted moments for his character that ended up in the film. We don't know what specific scenes these moments are in, but let's just appreciate Mysterio for a sec.
Somebody get this stupid costume off me!
Having Aunt May be played by a younger actress in the Marvel Universe gave us a whole other perspective on her relationship with Peter. It's so comforting to see the two of them interact on screen, but you'll be shocked to find out that a lot of their scenes were unscripted as well. One specific improvised moment in Spider-Man Homecoming happened while they're eating in the Thai restaurant.
How many times do I have to say larb before you talk to me? You know I larb you.
Their conversation was just something the actor made up on the fly with some guidance from the director. Yet again, we have another improvised moment between Peter Parker and Tony Stark. This time, it's in Captain America: Civil War. Check it out.
I'm gonna sit here so you move the leg.
Tony Stark telling Peter to move over might seem like it was in character, and it is. But it was also Robert Downey Jr.'s way of telling Tom Holland to scoot over onto his set marker without ruining the entire take. Funnily enough, it ended up in the final cut.
Can you even see in these?
Yes, I can't. Look, I can't.
Samuel L. Jackson got his moment to shine in Spider-Man as his character Nick Fury. He even got sassy with Spider-Man, although the line wasn't even scripted. When Peter admits he's a little hesitant to join their newest plan, Fury says,
"Bitch, please, you've been to space."
Samuel L. Jackson may not have recalled whether the line was improvised, but Jake Gyllenhaal jumped in to confirm it was 100% unscripted. I'm here to attest, that was improvised. Despite his hesitancy with Nick Fury, Peter was all in for helping out Iron Man on his Avengers Infinity War mission. But Tony Stark wasn't having it. Or should we say Robert Downey Jr. wasn't having it. While Iron Man is having a discussion with Doctor Strange, Peter chimes in that he's backup.
I'm backup.
No, you're still away. The adults are talking.
But that was yet again another improvised line between the unscripted heroes Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. Spider-Man Far From Home is full of European landmarks that make the entire movie stunning, even if a lot of them do get destroyed. According to a Screen Rant interviewer, a lot of improvising happened in a specific landmark, the London Tower. The film's final battle takes place in London, and supposedly during this scene, the cast shot so many versions because of their ability to improvise. You'd never be able to tell in the final cut.
They join forces like the Power Rangers. You're thinking of Voltron. Who? Voltron, you're thinking of Voltron.
Drax's line,
"I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?"
is one of the funniest highlights that came out of Avengers Infinity War, even if Spider-Man's life was literally being threatened in the scene. The line, however, was actually ad-libbed by Drax's actor Dave Bautista. The rest of the actors, including Tom Holland, are just so professional that they rolled with it. The camera operator even seemed to be quick to react. Michael Keaton got some time to shine in Spider-Man Homecoming, but one of his best lines didn't make the final cut. According to Tom Holland, Keaton actually made a direct reference to his role as Batman in the 80s. His character Vulture is a little confused as to why Spider-Man would save him, and after Tom Holland delivers his "because I'm Spider-Man," Keaton supposedly responded, "but I'm Batman." We don't know if the line was part of the script, but Tom Holland seemed to be hinting it was ad-libbed. Like we mentioned before, Jake Gyllenhaal played the perfect Mysterio, and a lot of why his character is so epic may be because of how well he got along with Tom Holland. According to Tom, Mysterio and Spider-Man were actually meant to bump heads a lot. However, while filming, their interactions turned out to be more friendly. The directors decided to let them head off the script and build their own relationship between the characters. They basically became BFFs.
Good luck, kid. I'll give you about a 50-50 chance. You're pretty awkward, so.
We also see Spidey's actual BFF, Ned, get his own romantic interest. But according to Ned's actor, Jacob Batalon, Ned's relationship with Betty was basically developed by him and actress Angourie Rice. He says they were given a lot of space for improv. They may not have lasted super long as a couple, but there's no doubt they were adorable.
I would totally kiss you, but I think I just threw up in my mouth a little.
I might have a mint.
It seems like Jacob Batalon had a lot to do with all his characters' relationships. With the chemistry between Peter and Ned, we've never doubted the way they were childhood best friends. And the chemistry between the actors off-screen is why it's so authentic. Apparently, because Tom and Jacob weren't given the script days in advance, they never knew their lines, which means their interactions are purely the two actors playing off one another.
Do you know him too?
Yeah, we met. I stole his shield.
If we needed any more proof that Tom Holland is holding his own when it comes to the rest of the Marvel cast, this video is it. Watching these actors not only play superheroes, but be superheroes when it comes to bringing to life a character is nothing short of impressive. Let us know if you have any other unscripted Spider-Man moments we should discuss.
Some of our favorite lines in animated films are actually happy accidents. You'd be surprised by how many iconic scenes were improvised by actors in the recording booth. We've got 15 of our favorite improvised moments in animated films coming right up.
We know exactly what to do.
Number 1. We're gonna talk about Bruno. How could we not discuss his brilliant ad-lib that brought a rat telenovela to the film?
That love could never be.
John Leguizamo was given the chance by directors Byron Howard and Jared Bush to improvise a bit in the booth, and thank goodness he did. This was just one of his additions. Throughout his performance, there are different shades of the actor that come through. It may be small, but it's also comic genius. Number 2. Luisa was having a bit of a meltdown.
Heavy!
The strong Luisa wasn't feeling so hot, and Jessica Darrow brought all the agony she could into the booth. To capture the true drama and spirit of the moment, the team had the actress improvising some sounds of agony and cries. The actress was pretty into it, so she asked if she could take it a step further and throw in some actual dialogue. And then this happened.
I'm a loser! Luisa!
Yeah, it was a heartbreaker, but the production team knew it was perfect in the context of the story. This improv line even caught the Luisa actress off guard. She had no idea it was going to be part of the film until she was watching the final cut herself. Number 3. Not all improv is funny. One of the most touching moments in Raya and the Last Dragon is when Raya takes a moment to herself to pray.
If I can be honest.
And a whole lot of it was dialogue coming straight from actor Kelly Marie Tran. She explained, "I remember asking if I could try something different, because I remember what it felt like to be desperate, and I remember how I acted in those moments, and what it felt like to pray to a being. In this case, Raya's praying to Sisu, that you're not even sure exists. You're just that desperate." Number 4. If we have time for a few more jokes, she'll tell them. Awkwafina is a jokester in her own life, so whenever she came across a joke written in the script, the actor would ask, "Let me try just a few more." What were they gonna say? No?
Well, we still have a big chunk of it.
Since the part was written with her voice in mind, it only made sense. Number 5. This could probably be considered a special skill. If you need someone who can belch on command, Luca actor Jacob Tremblay is your guy. Whoa. When the Luca team was recording and they came to the part in the script where Luca was meant to let out a burp, Tremblay figured he'd offer his services. I was able to give them some cool sound bites, and they ended up using my burp in the film. Tremblay loved the experience of improvising, especially with the encouragement of his director Enrico Casarosa, who let me bring a lot of that into the experience. Number 6. If it's good, you find a way to make it work. Sacha Baron Cohen's Ugo wasn't even a character at first, so he didn't end up being part of too many scenes. But then, the team got a whole lot of great content from the actor in the booth.
Some people think I'm mad to live in the deep.
For director Casarosa, it was a pleasure to see. Cohen came in and he improvised so much that we even put a little button at the end of our movie to contain more of the improvisation that he did for us because he was so fun. If it works, you better work it.
I think that they are the ones who are mad, not me the one who is mad, it's them.
Number 7. It's a fight, sure, but it's a hilarious fight. When Barney and Ron find themselves on the run from the Bubble Company, they get into a bit of a scuffle.
Have you got water damage to the brain? I mean, seriously.
But it was all Zach Galifianakis and Jack Dylan Grazer. The performers actually had a special session together in the recording booth just to improvise the fight. Their improv was riddled with comedy gold, so instead of sticking with what was planned, the animators literally just took their dialogue and made the animation fit what they said. It was too good not to use. It was a wild experience for sure, the Ron actor explaining, "It's weird because you don't know the person. Just like with anything else you're working on, you have to act like you know them. Since they weren't meant to be longtime pals in the movie anyway, it definitely helped bring some authenticity to the film. Number 8. Lena was bringing herself to this film. It's a short and quick line, but this
My girlfriend's daughter got me pulling my hair out, okay?
is in fact not what was originally in the script. When the Spectre actor was recording, she swapped the word husband for girlfriend, just wanting to be her authentic self in that moment. The team was caught off guard, but they were all for it.
It's not easy being a new parent.
Number 9. Say hello to a dream team.
It was magical. It was magical.
He and Peel have a pretty special relationship, and they brought all those good vibes to the table when they were recording their lines for Toy Story 4.
You got a kid. Like a kid? Like a human kid?
One very special moment is the 5 or so seconds of an original rap that's heard in the film.
We're gonna get a kid.
Alright, let's go.
For these two, it just made sense.
We sing to each other. And so it was something that came up in the creating of the characters within the story.
That's just a taste of the improv. The duo actually sang 3 songs, and the team recorded 3 minutes worth, but in the end, we only got 5 seconds. We'll just be here waiting for the full album release. Number 10. The actor himself didn't know this would be included. Josh Gad was maybe the most surprised to find out just how much of his improv made it to the Frozen films.
I don't even know it's Samantha.
The scene leading up to his big number, When I Am Older, in Frozen 2, was one of the best bits he brought to the film. Gad explained, "It never ceases to amaze me that I'm allowed to improv something clinically insane in a sound booth, and then the best animators in the world take my nonsense and bring it to life over thousands of hours. Considering how good it is, we're not surprised." Number 11. His name is Olaf, and guess what?
And I like warm hugs.
This might just be the most adorable improvised line there is. Gad explained, "Improv has been such an essential part of my journey in creating Olaf." That came from Jen and Chris saying, "This character represented youth and naivete. And those two worlds allowed me to just explore and find these non sequiturs that made the character spark." Number 12. When it comes to dragon training, improv is a must. Jay Baruchel was free to do his thing in the How to Train Your Dragon recording booth, and had some excellent improv included in the final cut, like this shady insult.
Thank you for nothing, you useless reptile.
And of course, some of Hiccup's grim vibes.
Da-da-da, we're dead.
Number 13. With this actor in the booth, improv is hard to avoid. All hail Kristen Wiig, an improv genius who, according to the team, was able to make anything sound funny. And maybe most importantly, willing to take anything to the most ridiculous degree. Her improv was scattered throughout the How to Train Your Dragon recording sessions. But one of the best scenes that was full of Wiig's spontaneous lines and moments saw her annoying the heck out of Grimmel as possibly the most annoying prisoner he'd ever dealt with. Number 14. It was subtle, but it spoke volumes. In the original script, Gobber was meant to tell Hiccup about why Valka and Stoic were so tense with each other, and explaining that's the reason why he didn't get married. But what he wasn't meant to say was,
this and one other reason.
Actor Craig Ferguson was the one responsible for adding that small detail, and director Dean DeBlois felt they should include it because, in his own words, "I think it's nice. It's progressive, it's honest, and it feels good, so we wanted to keep it." Number 15. Use what you know. Elizabeth Debicki was maybe a bit too good at this. The actress was improvising like a master in the booth for Peter Rabbit 2, but then director Will Gluck rained on her parade, saying she was probably just drawing on my own personal experience of being an incredibly bossy big sister. I have 2 siblings and I'm so bossy. And Will probably had to be like, could you just be a little less? It's a children's film. And to think, this was just a taste of the feistiness she brought.
Take that off. What are you? Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Which Marvel film had a whopping 80% of scenes unscripted? Today, we're taking a look at memorable and hilarious Marvel moments that were made up completely on the spot. One MCU character name-dropped a major celebrity. Any ideas why? How did a very special visitor contribute directly to a very memorable improvised line?
People walking around saying, Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever!
Episode 2 of the Loki series brings a very random yet perfectly improvised line. Remember Loki's odd candy comment?
Candy. Do you have candy on Asgard? Yeah. Grapes, nuts.
Here's some better.
Hiddleston came up with that on the spot, and it was just too good not to make the final cut. Director Kate Herron even highlighted it as one of her favorite moments that never fails to make her laugh.
We are not doing Get Help.
Director Taika Waititi was super collaborative on the set of Thor Ragnarok, which was a pretty big reason for the 80% of dialogue in the movie that ended up being completely improvised. Before shooting the brilliant Get Help scene, Waititi suggested that Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston do the scene as if they were playing a game from childhood. After exploring the idea for a bit, the scene was improvised from there.
Classic. Still hate it? It's humiliating.
No, not for me, it's not.
Waititi does credit Hemsworth for coming up with the idea of Thor convincing Loki to go ahead with his plan. Apparently, Beyoncé exists in the MCU, at least according to Doctor Strange himself, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Try me, Beyoncé.
The Beyoncé reference was tossed in while Cumberbatch was improvising his way through the scene. Wong said that for the most part he was just listening and responding to Cumberbatch's instincts. The actors were really surprised by just how hilarious the material they came up with was. The moment was of course made even better by having Wong listening to Beyoncé for supposed research later on.
And he transformed back into himself and he was like, yeah, it's me! And he stabbed me.
Thor's childhood snake story comes directly from Chris Hemsworth. The actor had actually come up with a number of different ideas in his improvs, but the snake memory wound up being the perfect fit.
So, who would like to start?
While on set for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan were given the framework of how the therapy scene should go, but aside from that, the actors were left to their own devices.
You really enjoy this?
I'm going to.
I know you are.
Yeah.
The result was a fantastic display of Mackie and Stan's improv skills, as well as their deep knowledge and connection to their characters. Even small details, like their interlocking legs, were natural instincts. Only 4 or 5 takes were filmed at each angle, which is significantly less than usual.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
The cast and crew were extremely surprised to have Thor throwing his mug after requesting more coffee. The spontaneous choice proved to be very popular with the Marvel president, so of course, it made the cut. Seeing this referenced in Loki again is a great moment, just going to show that sometimes these golden improvs become part of the world and we love to see it. The crew of Avengers Infinity War got quite the surprise when Winston Duke and other actors in the film started doing some chants in unison that they'd never heard before. Black Panther was still in production at that point, so only the cast members who were in both films knew what was going on. The surprise moment turned out to be a hit and made the final cut. Having these appear in both films was a great way to tie the movies together as well.
It's time.
No.
It's pretty surprising that one of the most emotional scenes in all of Avengers Infinity War was completely improvised by the actors. Vision's heartbreaking death scene was actually ad-libbed by Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. The actors knew where they had to go with the scene, so the director told them to just follow their instincts, and we got the magic that we see in the movie.
We are out of time.
The actors were actually really freaked out in the moments they were filming, realizing just how much they were actually needing to improvise. They wound up joking a lot together, making filming the scene a very fun and silly process.
This thing looked like Coulson.
Talk like him, too.
The moment that Nick Fury peeks under the blanket on Skrull is pretty much gold. And an idea that came in the moment from Samuel L. Jackson. Director Ryan Fleck really enjoyed the spontaneous move, and after looking back at the footage, the team agreed that it was too good not to keep in the final cut.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
Chris Pratt, aka Peter Quill's real-life clumsiness, came in very handy during filming of Guardians of the Galaxy. He managed to bring this great moment to life when he nearly dropped the orb, but it was actually completely by accident. It ended up fitting the moment so well though, so the take was kept.
And you've won. Congratulations. Fair game.
Karen Gillan initiated a game of paper football with Robert Downey Jr. floating in space, and the cameras loved it. So, who is the paper football champ? Gillan has insisted that she was the winner since she was the one that started the match.
I'm gonna sit here so you move the leg.
In Captain America: Civil War, when Robert Downey Jr. filmed this scene with Tom Holland, his telling Peter Parker to move was quite literally a direction. Holland had forgotten his blocking, so instead of breaking character, the Captain America actor pushed through the scene and made what needed to happen happen. The team loved it, so of course, it made the movie.
Hey! We know each other. He's a friend from work.
This improv idea didn't actually come from any of the actors. It was a suggestion made by a very special guest on the set one day. A young fan from Make-A-Wish was talking to Hemsworth between takes and said that Thor should say Hulk was a friend from work. The actor took it seriously and brought the funny line to life. That kid definitely has some good instincts. One of the most epic lines that came up on the spot in the MCU was definitely Robert Downey Jr.'s proclaiming he was Iron Man. He completely surprised the filming crew when he did it and brought an extremely memorable moment to our screens.
We won. Mr. Stark.
When Robert Downey Jr. is on set, brilliant improv isn't too far away. His final scene in Avengers Endgame was fully unscripted. The team, of course, laid out an outline and explained what points needed to be hit in the scene, but otherwise, Downey Jr. and Tom Holland were left to make improv magic together. Holland said it was extremely emotional to film, especially with the small amount of people that were actually present for filming.
Nobody would know. Nobody.
Jeremy Renner's sidebar teasing remark at Pietro while rambling to himself as Hawkeye was born in the moment, and Renner committed so well, it made for one of the funniest bits in the whole movie. One simple word changed the meaning and amped this line up to be one of the most memorable snide remarks in Avengers Infinity War. Drax actor David Bautista changed the word where to why and made movie magic with his line about Gamora.
Who's Gamora? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Screenwriter Christopher Marcus was very impressed with the improv and gives total credit to Bautista for it.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir, please.
Peter Parker's final moments in Avengers Infinity War was actually inspired by a long improvisation the team had done while shooting. In it, they found the incredible moment that Holland has talking about how he doesn't want to go and made sure to add it to the movie. This emotional moment came from a simple direction to just act like he didn't want to go, and Holland nailed it. The Avengers post-credits scene that had the crew eating shawarma in a half-destroyed restaurant was totally inspired by one of Robert Downey Jr.'s improvised lines in an earlier scene.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
He threw the reference in after taking care of Loki, and considering how hard they were working, we wouldn't be surprised if the actor was actually just hungry. Evangeline Lilly and Paul Rudd punching it out makes for a great scene in the 2015 film Ant-Man. But what makes it even better is Rudd's improvised lines. The Ant-Man actor regularly threw in witty one-liners throughout the film, but one golden moment really stuck out to us. After being nailed by Lilly, Rudd quips,
"Were you going for the hand?"
"Nice try, Ant-Man." We have a feeling her aim is pretty accurate.
That's how you punch.
I dropped some eggs. You're like, accidentally.
You made the cut.
Stranger Things is one of the biggest TV hits of all time, due in large part to its amazing cast. Along with being incredible actors, it turns out that they're also some seriously impressive improvisers. Even though the show is scripted, some of the most impactful moments from all 3 seasons were actually improv, like some hilariously awkward unscripted moments that even the most professional actors couldn't keep a straight face for.
It was not written in the script. The kiss was not written in the script.
One of the most infamous unscripted moments in Stranger Things history was the kiss between Max and Lucas in Season 2. Well, the actress behind Max, Sadie Sink, who was only 15 at the time and had never been kissed, was not told about the big moment before arriving on set. But when Ross Duffer joked about it and she freaked out and became extremely uncomfortable, he decided that he just had to add it in, just to mess with her. He said in an interview that it was her fault that the kiss was added in because she reacted so nervously.
You were so freaked out that I was like, well, I gotta make her do it now.
Do you remember being 15? We do, and having our first kiss in front of a crew of hundreds would have freaked us out too. Even though it all turned out okay in the end, the moment sparked an important conversation about advocating for the rights of young actors on set. Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard have grown super close over the course of filming Stranger Things, which makes for some amazing on-screen chemistry. Just check out this adorable scene of the two of them playing around.
I never gave up on you. I heard.
You can't fake that kind of friendship, which is what makes the fact that their very sweet scene in the grocery store from season 3 was actually all improv even better. Poor Mike is struggling to find the words to tell Elle that he wants to get back together with her, and we all know how hard that can be.
I've never felt like this, with anyone before.
So when Finn started going off script and trying to find a way to confess his love for her, the directors absolutely loved it and told him to keep going.
Old people say it to each other sometimes.
Old people?
Yeah.
Some actors will do just about anything to stay in character, even when it terrifies their co-stars. Just ask anyone who's ever worked with Jared Leto.
Is he crazy?
Well, it turns out that Dacre Montgomery, who plays the only human being who has ever been intimidating in a mullet, Billy, takes after Leto in his own way. Dacre was so determined to stay in character as his psychotic, possessed by evil forces character that he threw caution to the wind and almost broke his own skull during a take.
I've done things, Max, really bad things.
In the harrowing sauna sequence from season 3, Billy was only supposed to scream at the kids from behind the sauna window, but instead, he went ahead and smashed his head against the thick glass so hard that it actually shattered. Luckily, he walked away with no lasting injuries, and no one can say the reactions he got from the kids weren't totally authentic.
Max, get away from the door.
What? Get away from the door!
The entire sauna episode was no easy feat, not for anyone involved. Apparently, it took 4 days to shoot the emotionally wrought sequence, and by the end of it, everyone was completely exhausted. No one more so than Millie Bobby Brown, whose showdown against Billy drained both the character and the actor physically and psychologically.
I was working every single day.
Director Sean Levy said that all of the exhaustion you see on screen is completely real, and that the moment when Eleven collapses into Mike's arms and starts sobbing wasn't in the script at all, but was just the actress herself falling apart. And we don't blame her. You can see Finn breaking character and looking over at the director for guidance before wrapping his arms around Millie to comfort her. She's such a dedicated actress that it's easy to forget how young she is and what a toll this kind of work must take after so long.
11 is me. 11 is just who I am now.
Even though he had tormented her and everyone around her for the entire 3rd season, when it came to the final moments between Billy and Eleven, Millie Bobby Brown decided to show some empathy for his incredibly tortured character. Right at the very end, Eleven sees into Billy's memories and reminds him of a day at the beach with his mother long before everything went wrong in his life, turning him into a monster.
You told her the wave was 7 feet.
While it wasn't in the script, she reaches up and touches his face, which, when you think about it, is probably one of the only times that Billy has ever experienced real kindness since his mother passed away. Moving on to something a little less tragic, remember the hilarious breakfast scene between Nancy, Murray, and Jonathan? The morning after? Well, it turns out that one of the funniest parts of that cringeworthy brunch was entirely made up.
That scene was the hardest
so hard to
scene
film.
Oh my God, I remember going in.
Brett Gelman, who plays Murray, is one of the best comic actors out there, and when he saw an opportunity to make the painful scene even more uncomfortable, he had to take it. Right after asking a few innuendo-heavy questions about how their night on the pull-out couch was, Gelman accidentally dropped a forkful of eggs. Instead of just picking it up and continuing, he instead said this.
Oops.
You can clearly see Natalia Dyer doing her best not to burst out laughing at the ad-lib, and we don't know if we could have been that strong either. David Harbour's Hopper, try saying that 3 times, is one of the highlights of the show, even if he can be seriously grumpy sometimes. But his grumpiness really does come from a place of love, and it only makes his character more endearing.
When you say date, just so that we're crystal clear about things.
Yeah, stop talking or I change my mind.
While he has said that he doesn't improvise a ton of lines, he adds in a lot of different behaviors that are definitely not on the page. One example of this kind of thing goes all the way back to season 1. On the page, it was really written as a sweet, caring scene, but instead, Harbour decided that Hopper would try to get Jonathan to toughen up and approached it from a way tougher place, even going so far as to punch him on the shoulder.
You're crazy!
Crazy? You want to see a real crazy?
Back when she was first getting to develop the character of Eleven, Millie Bobby Brown decided that she wanted to find a few moments where the young girl could be a little bit funny, even if that wasn't in the script at all. One of her most iconic moments was totally improv. That's right, it's the Eggo scene. In the script, they had Eleven go to the fridge and pull out 1 or maybe 2 boxes of waffles. But instead, Millie had the idea to take just about as many as she could carry. And honestly, Who can't relate to that?
Excuse me, young lady.
Holly Wheeler, Nancy's younger sister, has been on the show since the very beginning, and you might be surprised to hear that she's actually played by two twins, Aniston and Tinsley Price. The Price sisters were only 2 years old when they started filming the show, so they weren't given a whole lot of lines. None, in fact. Literally everything that Holly has ever said on screen has been improv, and most of her reactions as well.
It's okay, Holly. It's just a loud noise.
It turns out that 2-year-olds are pretty priceless in their reactions. So if you turn a camera on them, you're bound to get something great.
I'm gonna blow some daylight into that thick skull of yours.
No.
Hopper has had some great fights in Stranger Things history, but his battle with Gregory was one of the best. And apparently, all it said in the original script was, they fight, which isn't much to go off of. But working with their stunt coordinator, they had a great time coming up with the epic showdown, and based most of it off of the Indiana Jones movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. They even got to throw some action hero lines of their own into it.
You wouldn't do that. Why's that? Because you're a policeman.
I dream about being with you forever.
Forever.
Hey, Twihards. Think you know everything there is to know about the Twilight saga? Well, this video might just change that. The Twilight cast are all amazing actors, but they have a hidden talent: improv. Did you know that Bella and Edward's treetop scene was actually unscripted? Robert just kept ad-libbing. That's why in this video, we'll be going over all the surprising Twilight saga moments where the actors weren't really acting.
Did an older woman, huh?
When Bella meets the Cullens for the first time, the only thing better than Rosalie's sass,
the entire family will be implicated if this ends badly.
I would become the meal.
is when Edward takes Bella up to the treetops of the forest. It's the first time Bella, and the audience, get to see him in action. Well, Kristen Stewart revealed that Robert Pattinson actually ad-libbed one of the most popular lines of the scene. Bella is basically questioning everything that's going on in this scene. Who wouldn't? And when she says,
"This kind of stuff just doesn't exist,"
It does in my world.
Edward's response was all Rob, according to Kristen. That wasn't the only part of the treetop scene that Rob pulled out of his back pocket. Now, this next line is actually pretty controversial, in the way that people literally get secondhand embarrassment when they hear it. Are you ready?
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
Director Catherine Hardwicke had been trying to find a line that would work for the moment, and that's what Rob came up with. Honestly, it makes us think whether or not the ad-lib was meant to be a joke, considering how honest Rob's been with how ridiculous he thinks the Twilight scripts are. So if you've been wondering exactly what a spider monkey is for the last decade, try asking our Pats. After watching 4 movies, we all know how attracted vampires are to Bella's scent.
You do smell good.
Anyone else still kinda creeped out about that? So in Eclipse, when Jacob helps carry her through the forest to create a false trail, it makes total sense. But filming the scene was actually pretty difficult. Taylor Lautner may have a toned body, but he isn't as strong as a werewolf. They had a lever that was meant to hold Kristen so that Taylor could deliver basically a 4-minute monologue. But it didn't work out. Taylor improvised, toughened it out, and just carried Kristen himself. The crew was probably extremely grateful for his improvisation. Drowning is scary, no doubt about it. But apparently, so is pretending to drown. After Bella's cliff diving escapade, she almost meets her demise. When filming that scene, Kristen actually had to get in a body of water with weights in her pockets to make it seem more real. The fear on her face in the scene wasn't scripted. It's all Kristen. The director, Chris Weitz, finally decided to remove the weights after trying it out himself.
It's day 20 and things are just getting stranger.
Kristen's favorite scene in the entire film was completely improvised, but it got deleted. According to the actress, it was just a casual moment between Kristen and Edward, where they were only told to have a conversation they thought their characters would be having.
You don't think I could take care of myself?
I know you can't.
The filmmakers thought the scene wasn't worth the final cut, but Kristen totally disagrees.
It's a wolf thing.
What's a wolf thing?
Taylor Lautner didn't really get the whole concept of imprinting. Same, Taylor, same. So when he was given a script with no instruction on how to make it look like he was imprinting on a literal newborn, he knew he had to improvise the entire moment. So not only was the whole moment thought up by Taylor, Renesmee was completely done later on in the editing room. That means, to top it all off, he imprinted on an invisible baby.
It's like gravity. Your whole center shifts.
That's a tough one, we're not going to lie. Luckily, Stephanie Meyer was on set for moral support and to re-explain what imprinting was.
It's time.
The Cullens baseball scene might just be the most iconic scene in not even just the Twilight film, but the Twilight book. Vampires playing baseball during a thunderstorm? Does it even get better than that?
Hey, come on, it's just a game.
Well, what we're about to tell you might just be the cherry on top of a perfect scene. Jackson Rathbone improvised all of his skills with his bat. Actually, he didn't even know he was being filmed. He was just fooling around between takes, and the cameras just happened to be rolling.
It is not CGI, and I can still do it to this day.
With some editing, the B-roll became the A-roll. Jackson, do you have real-life vampire skills you've been hiding? Speaking of Jackson, he had another scene where he added his own tidbit to the script. Remember when he went all newborn and tried to attack Bella at her birthday party in New Moon? Well, the scene was actually more intense than it was meant to be thanks to Jackson. He got so in character that he actually got other actors, Peter Facinelli and Kellen Lutz, to hold him back because he was starting to terrify Kristen. That's some major method acting, Jackson.
It's okay. It's just a little blood.
Moving on to another major fight in Twilight, we have the final showdown between Edward and James in the ballet studio.
You're faster than the others, but not stronger. I'm strong enough to kill you.
Vampire fights are intense, which means to prep, they bring in stunt doubles and get the actors to learn fight choreography so no one gets hurt. But Robert and Cam Gigande decided to veer off the choreography and improvise their own fight instead. Their unscripted moves may have just been for fun, but they ended up making the final cut. It must have looked more natural. Jessica may get jealous of Bella and Edward sometimes, but she was still there to cheer Bella up during New Moon and have a girls' night out. But Anna Kendrick took the scene a whole step further. Now that she's gone on to do other franchises like Pitch Perfect, we know how amazing she is. However, check out what she did before she was starring in all these blockbusters.
I want to sit through all those zombies eating people and no hot guys kissing anybody.
Her entire monologue about the trash zombie movie in this scene was improvised. The entire thing. Kudos to her, that must not have been an easy thing to keep on reshooting perfectly. Beauty is pain, right? At least for vampires in the Twilight saga, it is. The transition process is painful, but at least the actors had some fun filming the scenes. When Robert filmed Edward's transition scene with Peter Facinelli, it was all silent. That means when Peter went to lean into Rob's ear, he could literally say anything. So every time they shot the scene, he would improvise something different.
The first thing I said, I'm sorry.
It started off normal, but by the end, he was whispering stuff like, "You're attractive." They struggled to keep a straight face the entire time. Okay, so maybe filming the scene was painful in another way.
I've held her once, and already you think that you have Wolfie claim on her?
So to be fair, on-screen babies don't really act, they're just there. But the baby who was playing Renesmee during her birth scene was having a little too much fun. Instead of fake blood, the costume department had to use a mix of jelly and cream cheese so they wouldn't irritate her skin. Well, the baby thought it was delicious. You can actually see them trying to lick the spreads throughout the entire birth scene. Honestly, this might be the most adorable improv moment.
Beautiful.
Without this video, we probably would have had no idea how many scenes were actually improvised. "Hold on tight, Spider Monkey." That line is basically iconic, and it was all ARPATs. No wonder the entire cast are such huge actors even more than a decade later. What was your favorite improvised scene? Do you know of any other unscripted moments?